Welcome, everyone. This is Katrina Konovalova. I'm with Martechify team. I'd like to welcome everyone. Today, we will talk about planning for 2025. What's next for your Martech stack? So this is the topic of today's discussion. And Sarah, who is helping me in the background, can you flip to the next slide, please? I'll talk a little bit more about Martechify. So as a lot of you know, a lot of you are returning visitors. We're proud of our community. We're growing every day. And our vision is to create this space for B2B and B2C marketers to exchange with ideas, best practices, case studies, to share the knowledge with each other and help us grow in our careers. So please continue checking our LinkedIn, our website. We're publishing a lot of new articles, as well as we started growing our YouTube channel. So you will see additional interviews with speakers who are not just the members of our Martech Chat or Martechify forums, but also we have expert spotlights that we're sharing right now on our website and YouTube. And with that, let me introduce Rich, our moderator. Rich is the president of Ascend Marketing, and Ascend Marketing is the sponsor company for Martechify. So Rich is the founder of Martechify as well. And Rich, you are welcome to take from here.
Okay, well, thank you, Katrina, and welcome, everybody. Special welcome to Manu, our expert today, Manu Agarwal. Let me just share that due to an issue on the home front, a family emergency, Benjamin Murray won't be able to join us. So Manu, it's you and I today, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. So Manu Agarwal is the founder of Brand Bevy. He's a broad-based marketer with B2B, B2C experience, and this experience ranges from strategy development through Martech planning, architecture, and technical problem solving. So he goes very, very deep. I think we're going to have a very good and rich discussion today. And let's, Manu, anything else you'd like to share about your background before we dive in?
That's great, Rich. It's great to be with you today. Thanks for having me.
All right, super good. Well, our topic today is for 2025. What's next for your Martech stack? So let's dive in, Manu. As you think about trends and key areas of focus in Martech stacks for 2025, what do you think is prominent? What are the big things that are on your mind?
Yeah, great question. I think there's a couple things that are top of mind for me. Number one, how to just reduce friction, in the sales cycle, right? I think the sales cycles are kind of getting longer and complex, and you're seeing a lot of marketers and sales teams struggle with go-to-market challenges, kind of in this new environment that we're in. And so, how can we leverage marketing technology to help reduce the friction in the sales process? And I think number two, one of the other things I'm looking at is, there's so many marketing technology tools that are out there now that have kind of become prevalent or have touched the market. And how can you consolidate tools to get the best insights you can, kind of under one house or one tool that can serve a lot of different purposes? So those are some of the kind of the trends that I'm seeing in the work that I'm working with clients as well.
Yeah, it makes sense to me too. That's what in our work we see that. We see there's a lot of Martech stack components out there, a lot of focus on rationalizing what's there and advancing what's there. When you think about the types of technologies in a typical Martech stack, what kinds, where is the action in your mind, Manu?
Yeah, so I think there's some things that in terms of new technologies or maybe emerging technologies that I'm certainly looking at and that we're looking at for clients. Going back to my first theme about how to reduce friction in the sales cycle, things like interactive product demos, and I think are certainly worth looking at, especially for SaaS and technology companies, to help your potential buyer experience your tool, your solution kind of beforehand. And we all seen the stat where I think it's 70% of buyers do their research online and before they even want to pick up a phone and speak to anybody in sales. And I think you're kind of seeing a lot of those themes play out in the marketing technology space where there's vendors that are out there that are great, where you can essentially put an interactive demo on your website. Your buyer can experience the tool even before picking up the phone or submitting a form and kind of get a good look and feel of what your product and your solution can provide for them. So that's definitely one area where I think you're going to see a greater investment in marketing stacks and kind of be integrated throughout your marketing and your sales and really your go-to-market strategy.
Real good. Now, there's a big one. Let me just blurt it out. AI. So everybody's talking about AI, but how do you see AI getting inserted into Martech stacks and used within the marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had a dime for every time I heard anybody say AI with a marketing tool, I think I'd be a millionaire by now. But to me, I look at AI as an enabler, right? And I think there's a lot of different use cases from helping create content, at scale, and kind of helping marketers complete tasks at scale. But also, I always caveat it with still a bit of a human review and making sure it's your right tone of voice and kind of fits with your overall marketing plan and strategy. AI is going to, certainly go away anytime soon. It's just out a lot of the noise that's out there and make sure you have the right AI tool, your team marketing perspective, and helps you achieve.
Yeah, makes sense. And we see AI showing up in all kinds of tools in all kinds of ways. One of the challenges that I think about, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, Manu, is that for the AI to be effective, you need good data. Talk to us a little bit about kind of the data dimensions of Martech stacks. What's the focus area now in that dimension?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one area that I've seen companies struggle with is finding almost a single source of truth, right? And there's so many marketing tools that are out there. Many times, a lot of the tools aren't integrated with each other. So you're having to rely on various tools to report on specific areas of marketing or channel strategy. And there really isn't maybe a holistic single source of truth that the marketing team, the go-to-market team can kind of rely upon or certainly view as the record, right? And so I think you're looking at tools now, or we're certainly looking at tools for our clients where we can almost create that record of truth where you don't have to go through various sources to get the information, but you can find all that in-house under one tool.
Good deal. Well, out of the kinds of technologies we've talked about, technologies to support demos, online demos, AI, data, tools in and around the data layer. Can you mention some specific technologies? Feel free to mention a brand name or not, but just what does the real life look like, Manu? What does the real life of some of these technology deployments look like in your world?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm happy to mention brand names. I'm certainly not affiliated with any of these, so there's no commission for me by doing this. From an interactive product demo standpoint, I think a tool like Novatic is certainly one that you can research and see if it's great for you. But I think it's a relatively easy to use, from what I understand, and no kind of developing or coding skills required, and it's a pretty fast time to market. In terms of some of the other tools that we're looking at, I think there's some customer data platforms that we're looking to integrate to give you that single source of truth and kind of one data source where your teams can all access the data and kind of look at it from a holistic perspective.
Good deal. Good deal. Now, I know that some of your background, you've worked in large companies and mid-size and smaller ones. I'm curious, since a lot of our audience and members of Martechify are working at mid-size and smaller firms, how do you, when you put that lens on things, what's relevant? What do players like that need to be thinking about as Martech stacks evolve?
Yeah, I think a couple things, kind of looking at the lens from a smaller or more of a mid-sized company. And certainly when I look at marketing technology and I'm evaluating it, one of the things I look at is, what is the time to implementation? I think a lot of tools certainly promise maybe the world and how you can get a lot of insight and certainly get implemented up and running fairly quickly. But what does that realistically look like for your team? What other departments do you need to get involved in order to make this implementation happen? Do you need tech resources or dev resources? Do other teams need to get involved from a stakeholder analysis perspective? So I try to understand kind of what the holistic picture is when we implement a tool, and certainly err on the side of caution making sure that minute with a file approve layer on the side of what are tools and we can generate or use to implement faster that are certainly not going to take resources away from other departments before we go in and invest in a marketing technology.
I think we were just talking about mid-sized and smaller firms.
Absolutely.
When you're working on optimizing stacks, what does that look like? And in particular, making the turn from 2024 into 2025, what kind of challenges and or learnings do you see coming from that kind of work?
Yeah, I think one of the things I was mentioning maybe before I left was about investing in tools that are going to essentially have a faster implementation, faster time to market, so the marketing team can prove the ROI. I think as we all are looking at marketing budgets going into next year and kind of in the annual planning process, I feel like the marketing teams especially only get a few asks that they can to their CFO, other stakeholders in the company, and so making sure the tools are certainly justifying the investment is key. So I kind of err on the side of instead of maybe going all in on a larger enterprise tool with a longer implementation and a higher price tag, other tools that can get you 60-70% of the way there and don't take as long to implement a much lower price tag kind of in this new environment that we're in. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at going into the next year in terms of how you can also optimize your marketing tech stack and get the insights you need from a marketing team to move the business forward.
Good. Let's talk some specifics in that realm, Manu. So, are you talking about, for example, automation platforms, campaign management? You're talking about big data platforms. Like, can you draw the contrast for us? The larger platforms versus some of the more nimble, faster to implement tools.
Yeah. So one thing that I'm looking at is maybe instead of going all in on a larger ABM tool, can you use a tool like a Common Room or even maybe like a Unify to get some of those same intent signals kind of across your marketing channels and kind of get better insights that way. Plug it in with your sales team, kind of create more of maybe it's an all-down motion, right? Where if someone's interacting with your LinkedIn post that's in your ICP, maybe went to visit your pricing page, can that signal trigger an outbound email from one of your account executives on the sales team to spark interest and move the conversation forward and start that buying process. So just creating a more of a unified kind of let's call it smaller tools, maybe less expensive tools versus going in and investing in a larger account-based marketing platform that takes longer to maybe a bit more from and certainly to get that return on investment.
Yeah, good thought. Good thought. So in some of the thinking I've done in advance of this session, I've kind of looked into some trends. One I see that I'm just curious to get your thoughts on, Manu, is what some would describe as a composable stack, using best-of-breed components to construct a stack and wrapping it around like a data platform, a more unified data platform. Another word I saw was atomization, which is same general idea. Identifying like what is the foundation of the stack, and then using tools more nimble, if you will, nimble or specific tools to care for certain functions. Does that ring bells in your world, or is that more things that I'm dealing with that you may not be? What are your thoughts?
No, I think I'm certainly hearing more rumblings of that, right? And I think that's certainly an important consideration, going forward. I think again going into 25, I think there's definitely some opportunities in that arena in terms of what you're talking.
Yeah. Let me. There's another angle into this, or another lens to put on it, is when we have this could be mid-sized companies, could be large ones, where there's been a lot of Martech components put into the stack, a lot of components that do many things. So I sometimes call it the Frankenstack. I've used that term used, where you have tools that are overlapping each other. and technically can be a challenge. Certainly data-wise can be a challenge. It can mess up data, and then process-wise, it can kind of tangle up. Does that resonate in your experience? Do you see that kind of a concern? And because I think earlier you mentioned kind of rationalizing stacks. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think you're seeing a lot of overlap with the various, marketing tech tools that are out there. And I think, your job as a marketer is to make sure, where can you drive, the highest ROI, the best insights from the various tools that we have. Certainly one of your jobs as a marketer is to do that. And certainly introduce new tech stacks or new tools to complement your tech stack that can essentially provide new value, right? And bring new insights into the table. So I do think, a lot of times I think I'm seeing clients and even companies we work with previously suffer just from an overall like GTM bloat or inefficiency where they're investing in multiple marketing technologies, tools that are overlapping or, certainly generate maybe the same results or certainly covering the same areas as an existing tool that they currently have. And so I do think that's definitely an area that, going into next year and even beyond, especially as budgets even get tighter, seemingly going forward, that, a lot of marketers are going to have to grapple with and make some hard decisions, on are these tools that I'm investing in truly complementary, or are they accretive in value in terms of generating insights and ROI, or are they kind of just incremental and not necessarily getting me the ROI and the insights that I need?
Got it. In general, do you see Martech spending increasing? I mean, I'm kind of hearing a couple. I mean, I'm just kind of probing a bit here, Manu. But certainly, when we're talking about cost efficiency, justifying expenses, rationalizing, that might fit with a picture where really, organizations are needing to manage their budgets where they are, not really adding more dollars to the technologies. Is it that, or do you see organizations where there is truly new features being sought, dollars being added? How do you paint that out?
I think it truly depends on the org, but I always feel like if we're, I think, again, part of my roles in various organizations is to evaluate the marketing kind of tech stack every year and see, are there other opportunities to optimize it with. I do think orgs, at least from where I sit, are going to maintain their spend, maybe not necessarily increase it tremendously, but it's almost like a maintenance spend where can we do more with less, or certainly with the existing stack that we have, and get more insights out of it, generate more ROI from it. We're all in and invest in a few more tools here to elevate my marketing tech stack. Businesses, you're seeing some buyer's remorse, right? Where companies have maybe invested in larger tools and maybe not getting the returns from it, and seeing ways that they can either invest in another tool that's less expensive, or even cut that out of their budget altogether.
Got it. Now, then circling back, we talked a little bit about AI. So pretty much all the marketing organizations that I interact with are really hungry to put AI to work, kind of advance the marketing via AI, advance the marketing efficiencies via AI. And then, but let's combine that thought with, geez, and there's really not new dollars to work with. What's your take? I mean, is this just now working with the tools, the AI tools that are now embedded in many existing platforms and tools?
AI is certainly the be all and it's a mixture of both, right? I think you're seeing companies and clients that I work with kind of just work with the existing AI that the tools have, and certainly also and looking at other AI opportunities. I don't know if it's a zero-sum game yet. I think there's just a long kind of runway with AI right now, but maybe eventually it'll get there, right? Where there's just so many tools that promise AI and really shiny new things that can do amazing marketing work for you. But I certainly think these specific, and it kind of just really depends on the situation that your company's in.
Yeah. last one, and then we're going to need to do some wrap up things. So kind of on that same theme, when we think about the major MarTech vendors, like the technology providers, most of the big ones really would like their customers to be contained, to use their tools and to do everything with their tools. It sounds like you're saying the opposite. It sounds like you're saying not that. We need to think in terms of best of breed components and not get into not got it not. But am I reading you right? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think, I would argue that, as a marketer, you're always finding the best way to optimize your tech. Well, there's definitely some incentives, let's call it financially, even for you to stay in-house with one vendor that can maybe do a few different things with the various tools that they have under their belt. I do think it's worthwhile for marketers to understand, is this really what's the best use case for my team, for my company, and make the appropriate decisions, right? And I certainly think now there's such a proliferation of marketing tools out there that, it certainly at least behooves you to do the exercise and evaluate your tech stack right now. Make sure what you have is working for you, and understand and kind of go through that process of seeing if there is there another tool out there that can complement or even replace what I currently have that fits well for me. So I don't necessarily advocate one way or the other. I definitely think it's kind of specific to your situation, but I think it's certainly worth the exercise.
Yeah. So making a big case to do the homework, run it down. Don't just blindly do what maybe the vendors are proposing, which in my experience is.
Yeah, I always seem to get a lot more. Exactly. I was going to say I seem to get a lot more, emails and phone calls around renewal season, right? When it comes to with vendors, but you certainly opportunity to kind of get ahead of that and make sure if you do renew, it's the right decision for you.
All right, super good. Well, good insights here, Manu. I think we're going to need to break for a minute so that Katrina and the team can share some announcements and a couple closing thoughts. But let me just mention we have some questions in the chat, and I think rather than try to do that right this minute, let's have the wrap up comments, and then I'll invite the participants and us to stay online. We can kind of open up the mics and then talk about the Q&A that's been posted. Does that make sense? So, Katrina, I think over to you.
Our next Martechify event will be in February. Please check our website for updates. And now I think we have Q&A. So we have several questions in the chat, and one of them is if it's a good thought to downgrade to less expensive solutions if you aren't getting the use out of something. However, do you recommend professional services to better leverage platforms before making a change?
Do you mean like professional services that the vendor offers?
The way I understood the question is there a way to talk to maybe third-party consultants to learn more about software pitching before you make that switch?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I think you have to make the right decision for you and your company, right? If you definitely want to downgrade, there's obviously a switching cost, right? From a time, a resource, and expertise perspective, that you have to justify the cost of the switch, not just kind of the financial cost of it as well, right? So I absolutely do think you can leverage, whether it's a third-party consultant or professional services, to try to get the most out of your tool that you currently have before you make the decision to move on to another. That's probably a prudent course of action.
Yeah, if I can kind of build on that one just a bit, earlier we talked about how stacks can kind of start having a lot of components overlapping each other, the whole Frankenstack problem, and so detangling a Frankenstack is a tough exercise. And a lot of organizations can just work a good process and sort it out, but sometimes it's faster to get some outside help and to help kind of think that through and identify priority opportunities, I guess would be the word. But yeah, potentially there's a lot of savings for many organizations, especially big ones, in rationalizing and streamlining what's there. And so that's worth some energy to make sure that that's sorted out well.
So another question from Chad. when you're looking at all the new AI tech stack tools, what features are trending that make signals, intent, personalization, and other?
So you're saying, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last part. You're saying what features are trending in terms of how to generate signals and show intent?
No, what makes them different than other tools? So basically, it sounds that what's the hottest and greatest in 2025, and what are the new features that set these new providers apart?
Yeah. And so the hottest and featured, I think, obviously is going to be, AI, right? Everything AI proliferation. I think right now it seems to be, it seems like you can't go to market without saying AI and anything. And so that obviously is, to me, like kind of like the new bright shiny object, and it's probably going to stay that way for a little while. But again, it goes back to what makes sense for your company and your business, and kind of what you're trying to achieve from the marketing perspective in terms of how to judge the effectiveness of some of these tools that are out there. Rich, I don't know if you have anything to add on that one, but
yes, and Chad adds that seems that intent and signals are becoming very common. By the way, I want to encourage everyone to check our martechify.com website. Soon we will publish an article where we talk about AI and latest technology and market research, and how human and AI can work in market research by Rebecca Farabaugh. It's coming up in the next few days. That is also a very interesting conversation. We'll share article and videos where, again, we'll look at market research, and how new tools in 2025 can help. But also we have a long article featuring Manu as well, trends. So he also shared a few, I remember we talked about Beehive and a few other tools that you mentioned that are transforming newsletter fields, right?
Yeah, and there's some tools out there that for newsletters now that have become really, really user-friendly. So definitely check those out as well.
There's a really fun question from Tracy. When do you say no to AI?
I think, again, to me, AI, I look at it as an enabler, right? As a way for your marketing team to generate leverage. In terms of when to say no, I think that's almost like a use case decision. I think, to me, it's if it becomes too much, or you're spending a lot more time, or maybe not thinking for yourself and solely relying on the AI to maybe do more for you. I think that's probably when you need to take a step back and pause and see whether or not this is the best course of action for you going forward.
Another question is, are speech analytics being utilized by many companies? So any insights on speech analytics? Speech
analytics. I am not really an expert in that realm, so I could probably not give you any let's call it worthy insights on speech analytics
there. Okay, all right. Any examples on AI enablement for marketing teams? And maybe we can ask, I think it was a question from Shri, maybe we can ask him to clarify it, but perhaps how marketing teams, I know Shri likes software that allows to take notes and scribbles and turn it into a more coherent presentation. So one of the examples, the way Shri uses AI for his team, but anything beyond the basic ChatGPT ideas for making the marketing team lives more fun and improving.
Yeah, I mean, I can list some tools that I have some experience with and have used in the past. I think I'm sure you all heard of Jasper to help out with just content creation and content repurposing. I think there's a tool called Beautiful.ai to help out with presentations, almost like the same text to presentation, or if you input some text in, it can actually make your PowerPoint slides for you. I think Gamma is something similar. There's a lot of text to video tools out there too, like in video. And so there's just, like I said, so many AI tools in the market nowadays. Depending on your use case, I'm sure you can find one and start leveraging it for your marketing team.
Another question is, do you consider native integrations to get to that source of truth, or are there platforms that are worth the custom integration?
Yeah, I think ideally, you can integrate the tool. That's a tough question, just because I think it depends on your business case and kind of looking what you're looking to integrate and kind of the data you're trying to analyze. But to me, a lot of the times the out of box integration is just a quick and dirty way to get implemented, but certainly maybe lacks some of the deeper insights that you need. So I'd probably err on the side of more custom integration to make sure you can customize it so it fits the needs of your business versus just using the out of box implementation.
Out of all the things we've talked about this morning, thinking about what do you think is most relevant and most important for our Martechify members to leave with? How would you roll it up into, like, what's the nugget of advice that you would leave with our community here?
Oh, Rich, you're putting me on the spot here.
Yeah.
But I think it's, again, just maybe making sure you kind of do your homework when it comes to understanding your current Martech stack and what you're looking to potentially invest in next year and beyond, right? I think there's such a proliferation of tools that are out there, and it certainly behooves you and your team to do the exercise to make sure what you currently have is generating the ROI that you need, especially as you only get a certain amount of asks every year. And if you do make the switch, making sure you have the tools, the resources you need to get set up for success.
Good stuff. Well, thank you, Manu. Really appreciate the good insights today. Good discussion. All the participants, thanks for the good questions. So much appreciation, and hope we'll see everybody again at the next Martechify.